Hey guys, my name's Jim Dead. Welcome back to the channel, and welcome back to some more Warhammer. It's issue number 6 of Mortal Realms magazine this week. Let's have a quick look at it. So we've got this week's model set. You've got the Thorns of the Briar Queen set, which came with the Night Vault Warhammer Underworlds game originally, which all come with a modelled bases. So you've got a Briar Queen, and you've got the chain rasps that follow her and the others, so pop them down in a second. Inside of this week's magazine itself, you got information about Briar Queen and the kind of story behind her, and the fact that she was forgotten and trapped for centuries in a cell made from shade glass, as she is from Shadespire itself, the mirrored city, and she was unleashed by Nagash and tasked with punishing those who enter. And she was a mighty wizard at one point. The Night Vault itself, and a bit of information about the cataphragms and magic that fill all the different dungeons and stuff like that throughout Shadespire. And then you've got the Thorns of the Briar Queen itself. So you've got the Everhanged, the most powerful of Briar Queen's chain rasp followers, is the Everhanged, and the ghost of a mass murderer with the rope still tight around the neck. You've got Varklav the Cruel, one of the main henchmen and once a warden of Night Vault in itself. And then you've got 4 normal core chain rasps as well. Bit of a history of Shyish and the city of Shadespire itself, which was once a magical city that was full of brilliant Shadespire and shade glass, should I say, until Nagash decided to have his revenge on the city, and caused the shattering of the Fane Way, and twisted its reflection, so now when people enter it they get stuck there, and yeah, they have to fight to free themselves essentially, which, I've said it before, the novel Shadespire the Mirrored City is brilliant. I absolutely loved it when I read it. I thought it was one of the best novels I think I've ever read of Warhammer. It's Cosmos of the Arcane. It is completely out of time from the rest of the Mortal Realms, and essentially Nagash is looking down on it, essentially, and he can keep an eye on it and what's going on. And it is like it's stuck in a time loop. So going through like the story of Shadespire itself, majority of the time when somebody dies in Shadespire, they reappear somewhere else, and it could be within minutes, it could be within months of them actually dying elsewhere. So it's kind of like it always revolves around itself, everything like that. The heroes from that section of Shadespire and from the box set of Shadespire was Severin Steelheart, Oberyn the Bold, and Angharad Bright Shield, which were Stormcast. Shade glass, more bit of detail about shade glass and magical qualities of things like that, which could be a pretty decent idea, trying to paint up bases and stuff like that, make them look like they're made from shade glass. More information about the Night Haunt themselves and the Chronicles of Terror, and a bit more about Nagash and the Chain Wraiths, False King, and everything like that. Usual how to build guide, so how to put together the Briar Queen, which is push foot models as well, which is pretty cool. So no real gluing necessary if you don't want to. Just make sure you cut them out. The main thing with cutting them out is being very, very careful over the actual thorns and things like that, and make very, very, very fragile parts to these models. How to assemble. So Briar Queen's in just literally 3 parts herself. the majority of them are only in a handful of parts, so you've only got Pepper Hangtooths in like 4 parts essentially, and stuff like that. Bit of a painting guide. It actually tells you how to dry brush your miniatures. So the look that he's kind of got there, with that kind of pale blue, is done by doing a layer of good old Nikolai oxide and then dry brushing Corax white over the top of it, which actually looks very much like the Army of the Dead from Lord of the Rings battle game, which is pretty decent. Of course, make sure you base coat your models, which is always a must. And then put your Nikolai oxide over, dry brush your Corax white if you want to. If you need to fix any errors, so like if you over dry brush it, just go back over with some Nikolai oxide into them areas, avoiding where you want them raised bits and stuff like that. And yeah, so if you go over the top too much with the Nikolai oxide, just re-dry brush it again, but very, very lightly. Have a look when they're finished. And then you got your battle bits down at the bottom as well. So for instance, having Xandria Azure Bolt against the Briar Queen and having an arcane battle between the two, because they're both ranged and they're both magic users. So the Briar Queen could actually win that. So the Briar Queen herself can move 6 inches, 5 damage and everything like that, which is pretty cool. And has a bit more of a missile weapon, which is the Rending Scream, which is pretty cool, bit different, everything like that. But yeah, so it's not too bad and not a bad issue. Next week though, the issue is a bit more kind of dull, in all honesty. So we'll get some Stormhost Silver and some Reichland Fast Shade. Still worth the money. I mean, £8 for that. You're looking, they're normally like what, $4.50 a part, I think, and your Stormhost Silver's like normally £3. So yeah, it works out, balances out right, really. But issue 8 though, you get your first War Machine. So you've got a Celestar Ballista, and then you've got some Cantor Blue, and then you've got 2 Stormcast to paint up as well, which are your Ordinators for it. So yeah, so it's not too bad. If you've liked the video, please hit the like button, hit subscribe, all that stuff, and I'll see you next time. But for now, take a peek at what I paint, the Briar Queen models that I've painted before. Thank you. Bye bye now.